If I had only 60 days to find the perfect business to buy, this is exactly what I would do. My name is Marco Palmero. I help search funds, private equity groups, advisory firms in sourcing deals globally. And I want to share with you the exact blueprint that we use to originate opportunities on behalf of our clients or for ourselves that are actually good businesses for sale, that in most cases are off market, but in some instances, we also took care of businesses that were listed on public marketplaces. In this video, we're going to break down the exact strategy to find a good business, a good acquisition opportunity in a 60-day window so that you can then focus on closing that deal, negotiating, and doing all of these sorts of things. So the first element that I would take care of if I had a limited time frame is the targeting. So I would want to be very specific on the type of companies that I want to identify, because I wouldn't want to waste time browsing around and kind of like talking with people that are not actually a fit. So I would be very specific in the way I define my targeted addressable market, if we want to call it this way, and then find myself a niche that is big enough to have a decent amount of opportunities in it, but also is not the entire healthcare sector, for example. And so I would put some kind of like specificity into it without being too stringent. Now, what do I mean by too stringent? Well, if the niche that you're targeting only has, 500 businesses in it, maybe it's a very restricted geographic area, or it's a niche of a particular industry or sub industry, then chances are you're going to struggle in getting the opportunities that you need into the pipeline. Not because businesses might not be available for sale in that particular industry, but because they're simply too, too little businesses, there's not enough targets that you can identify. And even if, let's say, 20% of the businesses on that particular niche are available for sale at any point in time, 20% of 500, it's a very restricted number of businesses, considering that, a lot of them might not be a fit. We can reduce that amount even more. And so getting down to good deals that are actually going to be, executable for you becomes very, very challenging. And so my objective would be, okay, let's find a target addressable market that has at least 3,000-4,000 businesses in it that are good enough for me as a start, that have all the basic criteria that I would want into a business in place before we actually dive deeper and we start filtering them based on another bunch of criteria that we're going to talk about later in this video. So niche itself, not too small, not too big. For example, if you have a very restricted geographic area, or you just want to buy a business in one city, you might want to be more accommodating with the verticals that you target. Instead, if you're a little bit more generous on the geography side, you want to niche down on the industry. You can use these two kind of like metrics as proxies for identifying the good target addressable market that you're going to utilize. But provided I have identified that niche and I feel confident that there are going to be more or less 10-20% of the businesses that are available for sale, or at least considering an exit, then it becomes a question of, how do I go about initiating these conversations? How do I accelerate the process of finding deals and getting in front of the sellers? Because until I establish a one-on-one interaction with the seller, nothing is going to happen and things are not going to move fast enough. And since we only have 60 days, we want to make sure that event happens as soon as possible. In order to do that, I would tap into multiple channels so that we can increase the likelihood that we're going to get a lot of yeses faster, and then focus all my attention on qualifying the targets. How I would do that? Well, off market and on market would be the solution in my view. So broker deals, your geography or in your industry, those can be deals that are on the market already, kind of like the low hanging fruit. They're going to be more competitive, but since we're working on a limited time horizon, they can be good opportunities to tap into as well. Then there's the off-market part. That's where you really set the foundation of your own deal flow machine. You build it up so that you can find opportunities directly from the sellers. Different ways you can go about that. You can work with people like us that do source these deals on your behalf, or you can build the machine on your own. My recommendation in that case would be, let's build up multiple channels that can tap these owners and kind of like connect with them in multiple places so that we can find the best channel of communication and use that to build a relationship. So, example, if we have 5,000 businesses that we're addressing, I might want to connect with them via email, SMS, and LinkedIn, let's say. Keep the phone call as last resort, simply because we have a restricted time frame. So we're going to tap them on all the channels that allow us to accomplish scale faster. Then once we get that kind of response or that kind of feedback from the market 7-10 days in, then we can evaluate whether or not it is worthwhile for us to do calls, or what portion of the list we can actually put into a call campaign and actually start dialing to kind of like find even more deals, if at all. So on-market component, brokers, off-market component, multiple channels, email, SMS, LinkedIn. You can try letters campaign, but they might be less conducive to business in a restricted time horizon, in my opinion. Calls, effective for sure, but we want to be mindful of your time in this restricted time frame. So we're going to try to call as little business owners as possible, and we try to get all the yeses from alternative channels that do accomplish scale, and they can allow you to fundamentally do other things once you set the machine and you set things in motion. So off market, on market, there might be the argument of, is it worthwhile for us to go to networking events and build relationships this way? If we're working on a 60-day window, I wouldn't recommend that necessarily, because my experience tells me that networking events and in-person conversation do take a lot of time to build up momentum, unless we're specifically talking about events where people are already attending because they're interested in an exit, or maybe they want to explore the next phase for their business. Those could be good opportunities because, of course, you're going to find leads there that already have considered the exit and they are interested in talking about a transition. But if we're just talking about going through an industry-specific event to nurture leads and build up a relationship, that can pay dividends for sure, but it's going to take a longer period of time. So it might not be the ideal case for a 60-day, roadmap, and for us to kind of like get the result that we need in the 60-day period. So I know you might be asking, well, if you're saying this, Marco, then why the other strategies are going to be more effective? Well, a couple of different reasons. Well, first, the brokered ones, it goes without saying, businesses that are listed through brokers are most likely going to be ready to go. So they're going to be actionable deals. And even though you're going to be competing against other people, you can still find deals that can be reviewed and kind of like negotiated right away. So that's something that can accelerate your process a lot. On the off-market perspective, we're working with business owners directly, so we're connecting with them, and we're not really trying to build up long-term relationship, but we're tapping the market or the niche that we have addressed, that we decided to address, to find the ones that already made the decision to sell the business. If we are working on 60-day horizon, we want to make sure we get all the yeses right away. In doing off-market outreach will enable us to tap as many people as possible and only find the ones that are actually ready to take action. Now, of course, you can still get the people that might consider an exit 30, 60, 90 days later. But since we're working on a limited time frame and we're not thinking, long term, we're going to focus all our attention on the ones that say, yes, I'm interested right now. I thought of it. I'm ready to go. Let's move forward. That, of course, is going to be a restricted part of the market. So let's say that you have a good deal flow coming from brokers. That, of course, depends on the amount of listings they have. Then if you have 5,000 companies that are off market, let's say 1% of them are deals that you can actually work on. We're talking 50 deals. Now, not all of them are going to be good. And then it's where we kind of like stumble across the point of qualification. We want to dive into that part of the process as soon as possible, both on the broker side and the off-market side, because that is going to take a reasonable amount of time. And again, if we want to get a good deal in 60 days, we want to make sure we start that process as soon as possible. So assuming we set the machine in motion, in a few weeks, we start getting the first opportunities. If we automated the process of reaching out to brokers and doing outreach via email, SMS, and LinkedIn via off-market, we can then start working on these deals while we still get inflow of opportunities. And that is a good flow for us to work on. Then it becomes a question of filtering. Now, most people will say, well, if I go only through brokers, I'm going to have businesses that are already pre-qualified, and I need to do less work so I can move faster. That is only partially true, in my opinion, because it really depends on the type of broker that you're working with. Of course, there are very good professionals that will share with you all the data that you need in order to make informed decisions. But in some other instances, you might stumble across cases where you need to do a lot of digging before you can actually find out what the business is all about. And in most cases, you might end up wasting more time working on a broker deal compared to an off-market one. So there's no unique answer to that question, in my opinion. It's just a matter of working with the right professionals and then setting up your filters in the right way. So EBITDA, revenue, performance, historical track record, and all these sorts of things. We should be nailing down these things right away. And my perspective would be, as you start getting opportunities through the door, we should have clear deal breakers that we understand and we agreed on, so that we can avoid wasting time with opportunities that are kind of good, but not excellent. They have a few positive things about the business, but also some downsides. I feel that if we're working on a limited time horizon, the objective is to only find a business that checks all the boxes, and all the others are going to be disqualified. And so if we work with those premises, then we can really filter people faster, both via broker deals and off market. If they don't check all these boxes, next. If you don't check all these, I'm sorry, but that's not going to be a fit. Let's move on to the next one. That will accelerate the process of filtering. And again, you can set these criteria based on what your search, what your target company, should be about. EBITDA, performance, revenue, historical track record, employee count, recurring revenue, customer concentration, all these sorts of things. As long as you have clarity on that, then you can use them as filtering mechanism from the very beginning, and you end up with less leads at the bottom of the funnel that you can actually talk to. But that is no problem, because what we're focusing on is getting the right business in a short period of time. And so we want to make sure we disqualify and discriminate fundamentally everybody that is not the perfect fit as of today. Now, of course, if we were playing a longer game, we might say, well, we could spend a little bit more time analyzing some businesses, because we might realize that the business is actually better than we thought it would be. But since we're working on a 60-day time horizon, we don't want to waste time and try to assume things or try to figure out stuff that is not apparent from the very beginning. And so we would be very ruthless. We're going to be very ruthless in our approach and just keep the stuff that really checks all the boxes. That will lead us, of course, to the bottom of the funnel, where we have just a few opportunities. Those are the people that we want to talk with. And after that, certainly, not all of them are going to be a fit, because there might be discrepancies in price expectations, still skeletons that might come out. But I think the objective for me, at least when I think about deal origination, then execution is another thing, would be I need to get to that point where I'm talking with people that check all the boxes as fast as possible. And so first, I would want to nail down my search criteria, market that is not too big, but also not too small. Then multi-channel, I would reach both on-market and off-market brokers. And if we reach out to business owners directly, email, SMS, LinkedIn, calls to be considered, and so forth, so that we get leads from multiple places. And we also collect all the yeses that are available on the market right now. Then ruthless filtering mechanism, just to get the businesses that actually check all the boxes into the pipeline, and then allocate all the time towards these few deals that actually make the most sense. This is historically the process that has worked for us and our clients in getting good deals faster. Actually, one of the engagements that we used to sign with a few customers was like X amount of opportunities in 60 days within your search criteria. And that worked particularly well because, again, we were deploying a similar strategy to the one that I just mentioned. It's just that we were booking appointments on behalf of the client so that he could focus all his attention on negotiating the good deals instead of finding them. And so that was like a good way for him to streamline and for them to streamline the off-market part. So they could just say, I offload the off-market origination to Marco and his team, and I can take care of broker deals by myself, and also all the opportunities that Marco is bringing, to be more focused, kind of like laser down on the stuff that really matters and that really generates returns, which is, negotiating with good owners and moving on to the due diligence phase. If you are interested in this and you want to, kind of like outsource the process and have somebody take care of origination, check the links below. They're going to be, information. There's going to be information about how you can work with us. Also, if you don't want to work with a third party, but you want to build an infrastructure that can generate the perfect deal in 60 days, we do have resources for that, and you can find them in the description. All the resources on how you can build this infrastructure by yourself and then run it on your own without needing external help. You can find them all below as well. And this is kind of like the very simplistic blueprint for finding a deal in 60 days. It really comes down to accelerating the process, being crystal clear on all the things that you want, and then executing origination on multiple channels so that we can increase the probability that we're going to hit a good opportunity, and then laser down on that and try to get the deal done after we identify it. So hopefully this video helped you, and I will see you in the next one.